At my father's retirement party, my uncle slammed his glass down and shouted, "You all should be thanking me, not this old man who did nothing." The room fell silent. My dad lowered his head in shame. I took the mic calmly and played audio of my uncle stealing company funds, bragging about it at bars, and mocking the family. He screamed, "You set me up." But my dad's company lawyer stood up with signed warrants in hand. By Monday morning, my uncle was arrested, and the footage was on the news, shared thousands of times as the retirement party that ended with handcuffs. Hey, everyone. This is hard to tell. It's been sitting heavy on me for a year now. A few folks know the basics, but not the real story. I guess it's time. This happened in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where our family's roots go deep. My dad, Frank Miller, was a hard man, not mean, just solid. He built a construction company from nothing. I mean real dirt under the nails. Bust-your-knuckles work. Poured concrete, framed houses, ran crews himself before he could afford supervisors. He never took a handout. He never skipped paying a worker. He lived simple. A 1998 Ford truck until it literally wouldn't start one day. Same boots for 10 years. Same beat-up wallet since I was a kid. We lived good because he worked like a dog. Not fancy. Just decent. Enough to be proud of. But my Uncle Rick. Man, different story. Uncle Rick was the baby of the family. Born late, spoiled rotten. My grandparents let him get away with everything. While Dad was hauling shingles up ladders at 17, Rick was skipping school and getting stoned behind the 7 to 11. Nobody could talk sense into him. Not Dad. Not Grandma. Arrested twice by 25. Failed marriage. Lost jobs left and right. Owed everyone money. Dad always cleaned it up. He shouldn't have, but he did. Finally, around 2007, Dad said enough was enough. Instead of giving Rick cash, he gave him a job, driver, labor, whatever needed doing. Said it was Rick's last chance. For a while it worked. At least we thought so. Turns out, Rick had just gotten better at hiding who he was. When Dad announced his retirement in early 2024, everybody was happy. It was time. He earned it. He bought a little RV. Mom started planning trips. They were finally going to relax. The company was doing great. He set it up to transition smoothly. I was helping more too, not full-time yet, but I grew up on job sites and knew my way around. We booked a retirement party at Harrison Lodge, a nice, local place. Nothing crazy. Open bar, catered food, some decorations. We invited about 150 people, workers, old friends, city people Dad had worked with for years. It was supposed to be a celebration. And it started off perfect. Stories. Laughter. Toasts. Pictures of Dad over the years. Young and smiling, covered in dust, posing with crews after finishing jobs. Mom even made a little slideshow. Dad cried. I cried. It was beautiful. Until Rick got drunk. He was already red-faced by the time he pushed his way to the front, holding a half-empty bourbon glass. Wobbling slightly, he grabbed the mic without asking. I remember Mom's face. Tight. Nervous. Rick started out joking. Bad jokes, but fine. People laughed politely. Then he started rambling, slurring. And then he slammed his glass down on the nearest table, hard enough to make a few people jump. He leaned into the mic and shouted, "You all should be thanking me, not this old man who did nothing." The room froze. Dead quiet. I could see my dad. He didn't react at first. He just lowered his head, his hands clenched on the table. Rick kept talking, louder, angrier. I ran the crews. I made the deals. He sat on his ass counting money. People started shifting in their seats. Some looked at Dad, some stared at Rick, some looked away like they wished they could disappear. Rick was about to rant more when I stood up. I didn't rush. I didn't yell. I just walked, calm as ice, over to the DJ booth where we had the sound system hooked up. I took the microphone. I said, "You're right, Rick. Maybe we do owe you something." He smirked. He thought he was winning. I nodded to the DJ, and the speakers blasted Rick's own voice, clear as day. First recording. "Yeah, man, I skim off the top all the time. Frankie's too busy to notice. Easy money. Bar noise, laughter, CK him. Old bastard owes me anyway. I'll take what I want. Rick's face turned from red to pale, like he was hit with cold water. Gasps rippled across the room. People leaned forward, not believing what they were hearing. Second recording. If they ever found out? Whatever. What are they gonna do? Frankie's too nice to call the cops. More laughter. Rick's drink dropped from his hand and shattered on the floor. He screamed, "You set me up. You little sh*T. And he charged at me. But before he could reach me, two big guys stood up from a table near the back. They were off-duty cops, hired just in case something like this happened. Rick tried to fight, but they grabbed him fast and hard. Meanwhile, Dad's company lawyer, Mr. Pennington, calm as ever, walked forward holding a stack of papers. He said loud enough for the whole room, "Richard Miller, these are warrants for theft, embezzlement, and fraud." Rick screamed louder, kicking, shouting. He called everyone traitors. He called Dad a coward. Nobody moved to help him. Not one person. They hauled Rick out the side door in cuffs, still fighting. After they dragged him out, the whole room just sat there in stunned silence. Mom was crying again. Dad still hadn't moved much. Finally, I went to him, kneeled beside his chair. He looked at me, tears in his eyes, and he whispered, "Thank you." After the police took Rick away, the party just kind of died. Some people stayed because they didn't know what else to do. Others slipped out quietly, avoiding eye contact. I don't blame them. How do you keep eating cake after watching a man get dragged out in handcuffs? Mom was shaking. I wrapped my arm around her. Dad sat there for a long time without speaking. Finally, Mr. Pennington, the lawyer, leaned down and said real soft, "It's handled, Frank. He can't hurt you or the company anymore." Dad nodded, but he didn't smile. The days after the party were a mess. First, the news got a hold of it. Someone posted a video on Facebook, shaky phone footage of Rick screaming, getting tackled, the whole thing. It blew up. By Monday morning, local news was running it nonstop. Retirement party ends in handcuffs. Local man arrested after embezzlement scheme exposed. Even Des Moines news stations picked it up. Strangers were stopping my parents at the grocery store. Some of Dad's old friends and clients called to support him, but some were more cautious. They didn't know if Dad had been involved, if maybe he turned a blind eye. It killed me to see him questioned like that. Then the real damage started. Rick's wife, Aunt Darla, started posting garbage online, claiming Dad set Rick up, that Frank ruined his own brother out of jealousy. She made fake Facebook accounts. She wrote long rants blaming everyone but Rick. It got ugly. One night, around 10 p.m., someone threw a rock through my parents' living room window. Cops said it was probably just some drunk idiot, but I knew better. People started pulling away from us. A few clients called the company and said they'd think about future contracts instead of locking them in. Mom stopped going to church for a while because she said she couldn't stand the whispers. Dad mostly stayed inside. It broke something in him, seeing the town he helped build turn so cold. Meanwhile, Rick wasn't giving up. He got a scummy lawyer and tried every trick in the book. He claimed he was forced to steal because Dad underpaid him. He tried to say the recordings were faked. He even accused me of breaking into his house to plant fake invoices. It didn't work. But it dragged out the court case for months. Every delay, every hearing, every news article, it was like twisting a knife. Dad started losing weight. Mom barely slept. And deep down, I was getting angrier and angrier. It wasn't just about Rick anymore. It was about the town turning its back. About people doubting the most honest man I've ever known. Then came the second twist. Rick wasn't just stealing money. He had been cutting shady deals with competitors, passing them inside information about Dad's bids, leaking details about our projects, straight up sabotaging the company for years. And the worst part? He did it for peanuts. A few $1,000 here and there. Bar tabs. Vacation money. He sold out blood for beer money. When the investigators found that, it became a federal case. Wire fraud. racketeering, real prison time. But Rick wasn't done trying to burn the house down. He had one last trick. He went to Grandma, my dad's 84-year-old mother, and told her dad planted evidence that it was all jealousy because Dad was mad Rick was more successful. And Grandma, God help her, she believed him. She called Dad, sobbing, saying things like, "How could you do this to your own brother?" Dad didn't even argue. He just sat there in the kitchen holding the phone, letting her yell. After she hung up, he just said, "She's old. She doesn't know." But I could see it in his eyes. It crushed him worse than anything else had. That's where things stood. The town whispering. Family divided. Court dates dragging on. My parents isolated. And Rick? He was sitting in jail, stirring the pot however he could. I wasn't going to let it stay that way. If he wanted war, I'd give it to him. I had a plan. Something Rick wouldn't see coming. And I didn't care what it cost anymore. He took enough from us. It was time he paid every last dime. I spent the next few weeks digging. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was focused. If Rick wanted to drag us down, I was going to bury him so deep he'd never crawl back out. I started by looking into his friends. The ones he used to brag about. The ones he spent long nights drinking with. Most of them were broke losers like him. But one name kept coming up, Todd Campbell. Todd wasn't just some barfly. He ran a roofing business in town. And not a good one. He was known for cutting corners, cheating customers, getting sued. When I checked the public records, I found something interesting. Todd's company had been landing a lot of city contracts. Contracts our company used to win easily. I went further. I pulled the bidding sheets from public projects over the last 3 years. And guess what? Todd's bids were always just a little lower than ours. Suspiciously perfect. It wasn't random. Rick wasn't just leaking random info. He was feeding Todd our exact numbers. I brought everything to Mr. Pennington, the company lawyer. He smiled for the first time in months. He said, "This isn't just fraud anymore. This is conspiracy." He got on the phone with the district attorney. They opened a new investigation. One that didn't just target Rick. It pulled in Todd, too. Suddenly, Rick wasn't just looking at 5 to 10 years. He was facing 20 plus. And Todd? He had no stomach for jail. Within a week of getting served, Todd flipped. He gave a full statement, confirmed Rick leaked bid info, showed emails and texts, even admitted Rick helped him fake safety inspections to win faster permits. It was like finding the last piece of a rotten puzzle. But it didn't stop there. Because when Todd started talking, other things came out. Turns out Rick had set up fake vendors. Shell companies. He created fake invoices for supplies that never existed, billed the company, then cashed the checks himself. He even used my dead grandfather's name on some of the paperwork. He stole from a dead man. The DA brought down a second wave of charges. Grand larceny, identity theft, fraud over $500,000. The local news ran a new headline. Family betrayal. Brother accused of multi-year scheme against family business. This time, there was no whispering. Everyone saw the truth. The town finally understood who Rick really was. But even as it all came crashing down, Rick wasn't sorry. From jail, he sent letters. Not to apologize. To threaten. He wrote to Grandma, blaming us. He wrote to old workers, trying to poison them against Dad. He even wrote a letter to me. "You think you've won? This family will hate you when they realize you destroyed your own blood." It didn't scare me. It made me certain. We weren't finished yet. Because there was still one more thing I had planned. Something personal. Something Rick could never undo. The last thing I needed to do wasn't legal. It wasn't even smart. But it was personal. Rick had poisoned Grandma against Dad. That hurt worse than anything. I couldn't fix her memories. I couldn't undo the years she spent babying him. But I could make sure she and everyone else saw the truth. I waited until Rick's trial started. It was a circus. News vans outside. Old workers showing up to watch. Former friends pretending they had no idea. Grandma was there too, sitting on Rick's side, holding her Bible, looking like she still believed every word he said. When I got my chance, I took the stand. Not just to answer questions, but to show them everything. I brought out every piece of evidence, the voice recordings, the fake invoices with Grandpa's forged signature, the emails Rick sent leaking bids, the fake vendor payments. I laid it all out one by one.
Simple. Clear. No angger.
Just the cold facts. I watched Grandma's face crumble piece by piece. By the time I was done, she was crying. Openly. Rocking back and forth in her chair. Rick sat there at the defense table, red and sweaty, whispering to his lawyer, like a little kid caught stealing. The jury didn't even take long.
Guilty.
On every count. Rick didn't just get a slap on the wrist. The judge was furious. He called Rick's crimes a betrayal of blood and trust beyond words. He sentenced Rick to 28 years. No chance of early release. 28 years for throwing away everything good he ever had. But it didn't feel clean. After the trial, Grandma wouldn't speak to any of us. Not even Dad. She moved in with distant cousins across the state. She wouldn't return letters. Wouldn't answer the phone. Dad said, "Let her go. Some people need their lies more than the truth." But I knew it crushed him inside. And me? I lost friends too. Some of Rick's old drinking buddies had kids my age. People I grew up with. They saw me as the one who put family in prison. They didn't care about the facts. They only cared about blood loyalty, even if that blood was rotten.
So yeah.
I won. We cleared Dad's name. Saved the company. Got justice. But it cost more than I expected. Dad and Mom finally sold the company a few months later. They didn't want to run it anymore. Too many bad memories tied to it. They bought a little house down south Alabama near the coast. Fishing, warm weather.
Quiet.
They deserved that peace.
Me?
I stayed in Cedar Rapids for a while. Tried to rebuild. But every street had ghosts. Every store had memories. So I packed up too.
Moved west.
Started fresh. Got into project management for another construction firm. Smaller place. Honest work. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear Rick's voice in my head. The way he screamed at me the night of the party. The way he acted like we were the traitors. Sometimes doing the right thing costs you everything you thought you needed. Friends.
Family.
Home. But you do it anyway. Because if you don't, you're just another Rick. And I'd rather lose everything than turn into him.